Well, it's a disgusting rat and rodent infested mess. So what are you going to do about it? I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle now. And Bill, somebody did something about it. A supporter of President Trump, whose tweets from a week or so ago about Representative Elijah Cummings' district in Baltimore raised a tremendous kerfuffle in the mainstream media, decided that he would issue a call for people to come with him to West Baltimore and do a little cleanup. Personally, get down there, put on some gloves and boots and get your hands dirty and fill up some, I understand, some roughly 14 tons of garbage picked up in one West Baltimore neighborhood by some 300 people, some of whom came from neighboring states to be part of this effort, most of whom were supporters of President Trump. This all comes to us thanks to a member at BillWhittle.com who sent me a link to a video from WBAL and a reporter named Kate Amara. Bill, just what do you think of that? He didn't go down there and make a political statement. He didn't hold a Trump rally. He got down there and picked up some garbage.
Last time I saw my father was at a train station in Paoli, I think it was Paoli, Pennsylvania. I was doing a job in New York City. I took the train out, the Blue Line, I think, which was the nearest station to his house. So he picked me up at the train station. I went and stayed with him for a couple days, dropped me off at the train station. Train pulls out of the station. That's the last I saw of him. And when he picked me up at the train station, he noticed that there were a lot of rats around the train station. And as the train was pulling out of the station, the last image I have of my father is him walking around this train station and putting little bits of rat poison in the corners out of the way. And I just remember thinking, my first thought was, who does he think he is? In a kind of way. And then I realized, no, this is what civilization is. I mean, there are people in this world, I don't know what the percentages are, who will drop a candy wrapper in the middle of a department, in the middle of a shopping mall, let's say. So there's those people, and then there's the people who will walk past a candy wrapper, and then there's those people who will pick up somebody else's candy wrapper. And those people are the people that make life worth living for all of us. So when I hear these kind of things, it does two things for me. It fills me with admiration for people like this who are doing it not to make a political statement. This is not the Trump organization or everybody out there wearing MAGA hats. This is a guy who was made aware of a problem that he thought was serious and seemed like it had a relatively simple solution. So my two immediate responses to this are, number one, congratulations and kudos to this man. Whatever his political beliefs may be, I'm proud to be a member of the same country as this guy. I don't care how he votes. I already know what I need to know about this guy. I really do. I know what I need to know about this guy, and I'm proud to be an American with him, and I don't care who he votes for. So there's that, and reciprocal to that is a growing, constant growing, smoldering anger, and almost beginning to be like a tightly kind of unemotional, righteous rage at what these politicians do. Not only to the people who they steal the money from, but the people who they are supposed to deliver the money to in terms of services and so on. My anger at this it's not out of control. If it was out of control, I'd be out in the street spitting and waving and doing all the other things that make life in LA so useful and fun. But last night I picked up my wife from the airport in Cancun, which has a magnificent airport, by the way. I'd never been there before. And I'm stuck in traffic at LAX. It takes 45 minutes to go around the loop in LAX. A number of the parking garages were closed. It's miserable. The freeways to and from are miserable. And I realize I am paying 9 or 10% income tax in addition to my federal taxes on what was once the fifth biggest economy in the world. And our airports and our roads are third world quality, and certainly the conditions in Baltimore are third world quality. And I went home last night with a sickening realization, and sometimes somebody has to be there to give you the news, folks. By the way, my wife and I both agree that when we tour actual America, we don't see these kind of things. Most neighborhoods in America are spotlessly clean and they're well maintained and all the rest of it. In fact, just going down to Orange County, you can see an enormous difference between that and LA County. But nevertheless, in these cities, I just want some kind of accountability for the people who have stolen the money that is supposed to have gone to these fundamental, basic, absolutely lowest level obligations that cities have. I happen to have the honor and the pride of living in a city now that has had multiple cases of bubonic plague in our downtown area because the city government won't pick up the trash, and they claim they won't pick up the trash because they don't have enough money, when in point of fact, California takes billions and immeasurable amounts of money come into the state government of California and the city governments as well. We get taxed on everything here. We don't have enough money. What, you don't have enough money to build a new convention center? No, we don't have enough money to pick up the trash. Somebody needs to be fired and somebody needs to go to jail. And who is responsible for this other than who was the guy who called Trump out about the border things?
Representative Elijah Cummings.
Cummings, yeah.
Congressman.
So when you say, well, whose fault is it that these neighborhoods are filled with trash? Well, it's the fault of many people. There's many people involved in the agencies and the bureaucracy and so on that are taking the money that should be going there. There are many people responsible for the problem, but there's only one person who's responsible for fixing that problem, and that is the elected representative of the people of that district. And so he bears the full responsibility of this. He bears the full responsibility because that is his job. His job is not to go and make new laws on how to make sure that you don't get a plastic straw without showing a picture ID. He is responsible for the fundamental operation of his district on a civilized level.
Well, Bill, he would argue that he is not directly responsible for that. However, you could always say, look, Elijah Cummings as a representative in Congress does not have charge over the municipal activities of the garbage collection and things like that. However, he certainly is tied into the Democratic political machine that runs those neighborhoods, and his contributions to the campaigns of people who've been elected to city council and to the mayoralty certainly were determinative. His endorsement of those politicians make a difference. So just to keep the balance between municipal and federal government clear, I think your point stands, but his argument would be, well, it's not my fault. I'm making federal laws.
Well, one of the things that I've learned so much about politics and life is from you, Scott, and specifically from your experience as being an elected representative in Pennsylvania for a little while. And of the many stories you've told, you often tell stories about how local councilmen in a city or town or whatever are constantly just clamoring for federal money, and you, being a man of integrity, would point out that we don't actually need this money for anything. And they would say to you, "Are you insane? The money's available. We're going to take it, and we're going to ask for more." So when you say that it's not, when Cory Booker says it's not his responsibility.
Or Elijah Cummings.
I'm so sorry. When Elijah Cummings
Cory would say it as well.
Yeah. When Elijah Cummings says it's not his responsibility, he's wrong. I understand that it's a civic issue, but if your civic system is so corrupt that you cannot walk through the streets without kicking the rats out of your way, then your obligation as a federal representative is to wave that big, thick baseball bat of federal money in the faces of the people who are responsible for cleaning up the trash and saying to them, you either get this thing going or I am going to do what I have to do for the representatives, as a representative of the people of this congressional district. I understand that there's a city government, a state government, and a federal government. But as a member of the federal government, I am telling you officials in the city government that if you do not start doing what you need to do, then I am going to start working from this at the top because I have a moral obligation to the people that elected me. Now, when you start talking about terms like moral obligation, all of a sudden, guys like Elijah Cummings they get this vacant look on their faces. What are you talking about?
Bill, I want to get your thoughts on Kate Amara, the reporter at WBAL-TV, I believe it's Channel 11 in Baltimore, who showed up at this event. And you get the sense from the footage that she had that she may have received a call about it and came to it after it was already underway. And she got some footage of people who were picking up literally toilet tanks, furniture, pallets, tires, in addition to the normal flotsam and jetsam that hits the streets from bottles and things like that. And she showed at one point a view of an alley, a dirt alley. I didn't know that cities had alleys that were paved with dirt still in this country, but it's a dirt alley with a bunch of sort of trees and vines kind of encroaching on it a little bit. And she showed a long shot that was probably 40 or 50 yards worth of alley there. And she said, earlier today, you could not walk down this alley. And now it was clear of refuse. What do you think of local journalism and the prospect of making a difference in our country on a national level by doing some real journalism locally?
The failure of journalism on every level is the only problem we have in this country. I can say that with utter confidence. The failure of journalists to address issues rather than politics and promote their own politics is responsible for every single one of the ills that we have in this country, from the national debt on one level all the way down to why is this alley filled with garbage on the other level. The purpose of the press is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And if the press afflicts the comfortable often enough, then the comfortable will do whatever reluctantly will be dragged into doing that other citizens do out of just sheer love, compassion, and charity. None of which I expect from politicians. But yes, if there had been a fair press, we would have known things about Barack Obama prior to his election that would have caused him to be not elected. We would have known things about Hillary Clinton that would have caused her not to be the representative because she'd be in jail under multiple felony charges. And you can have a corrupt FBI, and you can have a corrupt CIA, you can have a corrupt Justice Department, you can have a corrupt Secretary of State. All of those things are manageable problems if you have the press on the job. And the press is the immune system of the body of the republic. Their job is to swim everywhere, and every time they see a pathogen, they simply destroy it. They put antibodies on it, which is the spotlight, and then they stay on it until it goes away. And a healthy, free, unbiased press is the equivalent of a healthy immune system. And when the immune system that is designed to protect the body starts lining up with the cancer cells and starts buddying up with them and going to the same cocktail parties, then you got a serious problem.
Bill, we have a lot of people watching us right now who care deeply about this country, who are passionate about the health of our urban areas, who are engaged in many ways in dialogue and sometimes debate online, even sharing videos such as this with other people. What do you think that this specific story says to people who are frustrated with the state of the country, and does it suggest any path?
It does indeed. When I think about actual journalism, journalists in the high sense of the word, what used to be newspapermen, people who were committed to getting the story. They weren't committed to protecting their political interests or making sure that people knew how to vote for. They were like bull terriers that smelled something rotten and went after it until it went away and got cleaned up. That kind of a person, that kind of a journalist, I can only name maybe two that come to mind, and those two would be Heather McDonald and James O'Keefe. And of the two, James O'Keefe is a better example because Heather McDonald has worked through traditional systems. She does amazing work and is an astonishing person and very courageous person. But O'Keefe is a great example of what an individual citizen can do when he is determined to have that bulldog sense of, this is wrong, I don't care who's doing it, and I'm going to put a spotlight on it until these cockroaches either get cleaned up or run away. And for James O'Keefe, who I know reasonably well, what James O'Keefe does requires almost unimaginable courage. First of all, it requires actual, genuine physical courage. There are a number of people who would like to kill James O'Keefe. Numbers of people, large numbers of people. So there's the physical courage involved with going out there and doing the things that he does. But I think on a much more daily basis, he has the moral courage and the moral guts, just the plain guts, to take all of these lawsuits that come his way. He's constantly in legal battles. And he's constantly in legal battles because he's one of the few people with Project Veritas, which means Project Truth, not Project Trump, not Project Republican, not Project Conservative, Project Truth. He's one of the few people that has the guts, the raw, honest-to-God, Iwo Jima, Suribachi kind of raise the flag guts to go out there, risk his personal safety, and endure not only the legal complications, which make anybody's life a living hell, but he also, on top of it, has to put up with all of the slanders and all of the slurs and all of the opprobrium and the hate and the rage that's brought down on his head, because he has the audacity to show video of the people who are doing what they are accused of doing actually saying they're doing what they're accused of doing. And so the example of James O'Keefe, and I'm very happy to say that we can say the example of James O'Keefe and not the example of the late James O'Keefe, like a rallying cry all of a sudden. I am very, very, very indebted to him personally, and I think every American who has a conscience and a love for this country owes him an enormous debt of gratitude. And while we live on memberships here and do our best to try to keep the lights on and keep these messages coming out, if you want to help journalism in America, James O'Keefe could use your help as well as we could. So the example of James O'Keefe shows, Scott, that with the ability of the internet to spread a message that circumvents traditional ground-based television and radio, that anybody can be a reporter, and that this idea that you have to go to journalism school in order to be a reporter is not only long out of date, I don't think it ever existed. Without question today, there's no question today, that going to journalism school today teaches you how not to be a reporter, teaches you precisely the opposite of what it's supposed to do. And this is also something you have personal experience in, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. But the beautiful thing about the world we live in, and the empowering thing about the world we live in today, is twofold. Number one, pictures don't lie. Video of something is irrefutable evidence today. So with everybody having a 4K digital camera in their pocket, most everybody, certainly they're available to everybody, you have the ability to go out, and the quality of the video doesn't matter. You have the ability to go out and record something, and then through the power of the internet, it's not easy, especially with the way that Google and YouTube determine mathematically what you should think and see and not think about and see. But nevertheless, with the power of the internet, you have the ability to do journalism, and that is to take a picture of something disgraceful that nobody's talking about and spread it around to people and get those people to get on the phone to make sure that the people who are responsible for this disgusting, disgraceful, dishonest, and criminal abdication of their responsibilities and the fraudulent acceptance of salaries and retirement benefits, when the spotlight is put on these people, they move, they do things, because they understand that they are in a gigantic criminal scam which is based upon the perception that they're doing their job. And when somebody can provide video evidence that they're not doing their job, now all of a sudden their iron rice bowl is in danger, and then you would be amazed at the speed at which things will happen when people realize that they may no longer be able to, live off of this government largesse for the rest of their lives and retire at $400,000 a year as the assistant to the manager of waste collection in Fresno, California. As a matter of fact, probably the quickest and easiest way, because it takes a long time to build up an internet audience and get things seen, especially, as I said, with all of these, search algorithms against you. But look, if you go out and you take footage of a problem in your city, you very, very, very likely can simply email an edited version of that. You could upload it to YouTube, keep it as an unlisted link, and then you can email various reporters in your local television station or newspaper. These are relatively easy things to find, and say to them, listen, I don't want to take too much of your time, but I have 2 minutes showing you how appalling the situation in our neighborhood of Sherman Oaks is, and I really think you ought to take a look at it. And in that sense, you're basically becoming a kind of an intelligence collection net for your local TV stations, which are the ones that are going to apply the kind of action that matters. And you're basically giving them the story, and you're giving them the lead, and you're providing the visual evidence that this is in fact a problem and not just a crackpot call. So I think that's probably the most simple and powerful thing you could do right now, with a problem that you see. But video evidence is important, because people will look at that link, and you've got 20 seconds tops to convince some reporter somewhere that this is a serious problem. So if you have the means to do it, if you have the means to edit it, great. If not, take 30 seconds of the most dramatic footage and put that at the top, or just upload that. But I think that would be a very effective way to actually get some results on these kind of local issues.
Almost anybody can be a journalist these days. Almost anybody can pick up trash in an inner city neighborhood. Not just anybody can be a member at BillWhittle.com. It takes a certain kind of person to have the conviction to do that, but maybe you should be one of us, the few, the proud, the members who have at least $9.95 a month to make this enterprise happen. But there are members who are contributing 5 times that much, because they want to make sure that everybody else can see it as well. If you'd like to join us, go to BillWhittle.com and click that Become a Member link. I will include a link to the WBAL-TV story in the description below so that you can enjoy that as well. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members for making this possible.